In this video, we're going to examine the SQA's logic behind the use your own words question. And by the end of this video, I think you're going to understand really clearly that in secondary school, and at National 5 in particular, you are being asked to change your approach to close reading. It's changed fundamentally from how you used to do it in primary school. I'm going to guess that when you were in primary school, it was very much like when I was in primary school or when I visit primary schools now as a teacher. Close reading is fairly straightforward. You look at a text that hopefully you understand, you get given a question, you find the answer in the text and you write it down. The process is a little bit like this. Now, the text will be nowhere near as hard as this for a primary school student, but the process is the same. You will scan the text, looking at words, sentences, paragraphs, phrases, trying to find the sentence or phrase that is the answer. And it's kind of like scanning a crowd of faces, looking for the right one until you're confident, yeah, this is it, this is the answer. And they're all vying for your attention. At the start, it's quite muddling. You're like, oh, it could be any of these. The guy in the motorcycle, hey, pick me, I'm the answer. The Wolverine hair, pick me, no, I'm the answer. But eventually, you were able to slowly work out what the answer was, a bit like those Where's Wally games years ago. Searching and searching and searching. But when you see the answer, then all of a sudden it clicks you, yeah, no, this is it. I feel quite confident now. And then you would go and you'd write the answer down. You would write it down word for word, exactly as it appeared in your primary school text. And you get rewarded. You get the marks. And you feel great. You're like, this is brilliant. All I have to do is find the answer, write it down. I get the marks. You leave there feeling, I'm good at English. I like English. This isn't too bad. Fast forward now to secondary school. The process is largely the same, but with a fundamental change. So the text is a little bit more difficult, a little bit longer, maybe a little bit less interesting. Vocabulary's getting trickier. You're still looking for your Where's Wally? You're still looking for sort of the hat in the distance. You're looking for the perfect phrase or sentence that gives you the answer. And then you find it. And then you write it down word for word. And you expect to get your present. You're like, I did exactly what my teachers taught me in P5, P6, P7, all through primary school. I've done exactly what I've been asked to do. Yet, that doesn't happen. In fact, instead of being handed a reward, it feels like it's all blown up in your face. And you get 0 marks, even though you've done everything right. And that's not a nice feeling. That's not a nice feeling to use a skill that you've been taught for years and years and years and years, to use it correctly, to do it perfectly, and to get a 0. And if that keeps happening repeatedly, then people start kind of feeling differently about close reading. They start thinking, oh, I don't like this. I don't like this feeling of, doing my best, doing what I've been told to do, and not getting the marks I deserve. People start to feel sad about it, a little bit down, and then start to associate close reading with this feeling of sadness and boredom, and then start associating English, the language that we use, the language that we all share, start associating that subject with that feeling, kind of, I don't like close reading. I don't like English as much as I used to. And that's a dangerous road to go down. I don't want anyone entertaining those negative thoughts. Stop right now. I'm going to show you why it's not your fault. Why it's not your fault that this is confusing. And hopefully by the end of this video, you'll be a lot more confident, a lot more certain about what has happened in this shift. So, they changed the rules. These are our referees. The referees, the SQA, the powers that be in education changed the rules. Now, they did it for a very good reason, but I don't think it's been communicated to students very well. Perhaps we should tell you right at the beginning of first year, day 1 in an assembly. But we don't do it straight away, and it takes us a while. And that's perhaps our fault as teachers. Now, why did they change the rule? The rule now, of course, is that you have to use your own words. You can't just write down the answer. But why do they do that? Well, let's imagine you're sitting a close reading assessment. And I want you to imagine one other person in your class. Not your best friend or a friend at all, or not someone you don't like in your class. Just a sort of average person in your class. And you're both sitting the assessment. You take your time with question 1 and you find the answer. And you go, well, I know I'm in secondary school now. I know it's a use your own words question. You change it into your own words. And you get full marks. And you feel great. And the person beside you, the other person from your class, they're not so sure. They don't know the answer, but they read the question carefully. Oh, look, it says in lines 20 to 27 So what I'm going to do is I'm going to gamble on line 25, and they just write down that sentence. Now, before the change came in, if that was the answer, a bit like primary school, then they would get the marks and you would get the marks. Yet, we know from this example that you knew the answer and that the other person in your class didn't know the answer. They got lucky. They guessed, a bit like a lottery. And the SQA decided that that's not fair. And they wanted you to prove your understanding, to show that you understand the answer you're writing down, that you're not just randomly writing pieces of text down from the assessment text. And that's why they ask you to change it into your own words. So the process here is that you have to find it, just like in primary school. Nothing's changed. So those skills have not gone to waste. Right? They're still incredibly useful. The skill of reading a question, understanding the question, and then scanning and skimming through the text until you find the answer. But the big change now is that once you find that answer, you have to change that answer. And that's a fundamental shift in approach. If you write down the answer straight from the text, you won't get the marks, but if you change it, you will. And you'll get full marks too. So let's look at some examples. Okay. Imagine in this example, the text is about a girl who's in a school assembly, and the head teacher announces that her favorite teacher, let's say it's her history teacher, is leaving the school. Okay, so the girl isn't very happy about that, and the question is, using your own words, describe the girl's reaction. Okay, and the answer to that question, the primary school answer, if we scan through the text, was this. Upon hearing the news, the girl was upset. Now, if you wrote that down word for word like that in primary school, you'd get full marks. At National 5, you'll get 0 because it's exactly the same as the text and you haven't proved that you've understood all the words in that sentence. So how do you go about proving it? Well, what I'd like you to do now is just pause this video. Just for a couple of seconds, I want you to stare at that purple box, stare at that sentence and say, can you say that sentence a different way? Trying not to use any of the word. You can use the word girl, don't worry about that word. But can you say the sentence again, but in a different way, keeping the essential meaning? So pause it now and go for it. Okay, hopefully you've given it a go. I'll show you my approach. Okay, I'm not going to try and change the word girl because it's quite a simple, straightforward word. But there are 3 words here that I am thinking of. Okay, I'm thinking of hearing, news, and upset. If I change those words using different vocabulary, I'll be able to show that I understand the sentence. So my first effort at that looks like this. The girl was distressed, so I've changed upset into distressed. When she listened to, that's the word hearing. The announcement, that's the idea of the news. So I've kept the same essential meaning. Those 2 sentences, while not being identical, mean basically the same thing. Now, I'm going to caution you from this approach though. What I see a lot of people doing in these types of questions is going word for word, right? What can I change upon to? Right, I've changed that word. What can I change hearing to? Right, I've changed that word. Oh, I can't change that. What can I change news to? What can I change girl to? Oh, young lady under the age of 18. Kind of going over the top. What can I change upset to? It's much better if you go from the viewpoint of trying to change the entire sentence in one go. So I'll have a look at my next 2 examples. She found the facts disturbing. Okay, so in this case I've left the word girl out because I don't think I even need it to keep the essential meaning of the sentence. News I've changed into facts, and let me change the colour of my pen here if I can. News I've changed into facts, and upset I've changed to disturbing. And another example. The bulletin made the girl feel agitated and worried. So I've changed news into bulletin, stretching my vocabulary. I was struggling with upset. I couldn't think of a single word for upset like in the last example. It's disturbing. So I've taken 2 that are kind of close. Agitated and worried. Now, any of these 3 will get full marks because I have changed the answer. After finding it, I've changed it into my own words. Mostly. I've kept a few of the original words. That's fine. But crucially, what I've shown is that I understand what I'm writing down. And that's what the use your own words question is all about at National 5. Prove that you understand what you're writing down. So, hopefully after watching this video, you realise that the rules changed the day you walked into secondary school. The SQA changed the rules with good reason, but now that you know the rule change, you'll be aware of it all the time. And you're going to get more confident because you'll start to see that you're answering these questions much better, particularly after watching the next few videos where I'll show you the formulas and that to use, and you'll get very, very confident around this question. So, you're being asked to change your approach. The rules changed the day you walked into secondary school. Now that you're aware of that, we're going to look in the next video at a quick formula to use, and then we're going to look at loads of examples to get practicing with.